The fire that destroyed this building started with water. 5 o'clock Sunday morning, Conyers, Georgia. Inside a chemical warehouse, a worker on fire watch hears a popping sound. Between the stacked sacks, dense white fumes begin to rise. He doesn't reach for an extinguisher. There is nothing to extinguish yet. He calls a code red, because in this building, water is the one thing that must never touch the product. And this building had been leaking for years. The company knew. It was inspected, counted, and filed. 3 years in a row. Every story in this series has one thing in common. Someone saw the disaster coming, someone tried to warn them, and somewhere, a decision was made to look away. This is Biolab, Conyers. The warehouse was built in 2019 to store swimming pool chemicals, chlorine tablets, sanitizers, oxidizers, chemistry with one rule: keep it dry. Add water, and it does not dissolve. It decomposes, it generates heat, it releases chlorine gas. Day and night, these chemicals breathe out faint chlorine fumes that settle on metal as acid. 2 months after the first deliveries, the bolts overhead were already rusting. The warehouse was quietly eating its own fire protection system. In November 2021, the annual sprinkler inspection put it on paper. 560 corroded sprinkler heads directly above the chemical storage. Documented. Filed. A year later, the next inspection found the same thing. Here is the strange part. The company knew the fix. Inside the storage bunker, they swapped the brass heads for corrosion-resistant ones. It worked, but only in the bunker. Everywhere else, the old brass stayed. Then, the business grew. The building filled with 14 million pounds of oxidizers, more than double what the county had been told. The sacks spilled out of the bunker, stacked too high, row behind row, underneath the old sprinklers. December 2023, the final inspection before the end. Inside the bunker, no deficiencies. Outside, where the chemicals now stood, 1,124 corroded sprinkler heads. Look at the drawing. Every red mark is a corroded sprinkler. Everything beneath them is pooled chlorine. Nobody moved them apart. The company's approach has a name: run to failure. You don't replace a part because it is old, you replace it when it breaks. And through 2024, parts kept breaking. Emergency repairs in July. More in September, the 13th, the 17th, the 19th. Just before 3 in the morning, a worker typed into the company chat, another sprinkler head leaking in plant 12. On September 29th, one more component failed. Water met chlorine. The sacks began to smoke. 2 men tried to pull them clear, but the rows were stacked too deep. The fumes thickened. They had to walk away. The first fire was out by 10 past 8, but the heat set off more sprinklers. And in this building, the fire suppression system was feeding the fire. More water, more decomposition, more heat. A second fire at noon. By nightfall, the warehouse had collapsed, sending a plume of chlorine, hydrogen chloride, and bromine into the Sunday sky. 17,000 people were evacuated. 90,000 were told to stay indoors and shut off the air conditioning. For 17 nights, an entire county went inside at 7 and waited for morning. Nobody died. But in the days that followed, health officials counted more than 1,000 people seeking medical care. Now the honest part. The company said the water wasn't theirs. A hurricane had passed through, the roof had leaked. Investigators checked, the rain had stopped 36 hours before. The leaks had barely covered the bottom of a bucket. And at 5 past 8 that morning, the company's own emergency chat had already named it. Root cause is sprinkler head rupture. No one at Biolab wanted this fire. The 2 men on fire watch did everything right. And the company did replace corroded sprinklers, one at a time after each one failed. That is the uncomfortable core of this story. Run to failure is a reasonable strategy for light bulbs. Here, every failure meant water on pool chemicals. The federal report needs one sentence. Quote, "Had Biolab Conyers taken steps to proactively prevent sprinkler system leaks instead of allowing the system to run to failure, the incident likely would not have occurred." 8 months later, the company closed the Conyers plant for good. Today, the land is for sale. The fire that started with water ends as an empty lot. Warned, November 2021. It happened September 29th, 2024. Nearly 3 years. This drawing stays unfinished. Somewhere, right now, someone is being ignored. The memo before the fire. The call before the crash. If you want to hear those warnings, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, which ignored warning should I open next?